I talk to people, and they say to me, well, what do I need to go to a church for? I feel like I'm saved. You know, I'm a holy person.
Well, the fact is, you ask them first, are you a part of the family of God? And if they say, yes, I am, then they say, well, then you have some family responsibilities. You think you're just going to get to go through life as part of the family of God and there are no responsibilities for you? In fact, there are over 50 commands in the New Testament that you are responsible to God to fulfill with other believers. And if you're not in fellowship and in contact with other believers, then you're not going to be growing. And so the local church is the lab for learning how to love.
The church needs you, and you need the church.
There are no such thing as Lone Ranger Christians. It's quite arrogant to say, you know, me and Jesus, we got our own thing going. We don't need anybody else to tell us what it's all about. Well, the truth is you do. That very attitude means you do. You need other people. And God intentionally didn't give anybody all the gifts so we would need each other. And you have gifts that I don't have, and you have wisdom I don't have, and you're shaped in a way that I'm not shaped. And so I do need you. And maturity is realizing, the more mature I get, the more I realize how I need other people. Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself, reaching up and reaching out. When somebody says, I don't need a church, that is an American misconception. Nowhere else in the world do you have Christians who are not part of a church family. Anywhere else in the world and anywhere else throughout 2,000 years of church history, to be a Christian meant to be connected to some other believers somewhere. And so you go to Africa, you go to Asia, they're not saying, well, I don't need the church. They're saying, how soon can I get to my group of people to be restored and strengthened and helped because the Communist Party's after me and things like that. Only in America, because we have Christian bookstores and Christian seminars and Christian books and TV and radio, do people think that they can get along without fellowship. There are over 50 commands in the New Testament. Love one another, pray for one another, care for one another, help one another, exhort one another, share with one another, care for one another, and all these one another that you cannot do unless you're in a committed body of Christ. And so you pick a body, and, you know, there's no one right church. You just find one that say, this is where I'm willing to give and be given to, share and be shared with, serve and be served. You know, people say, well, I don't like your church. There's things in my church I don't like, okay? But I don't like everything that goes on in my family, but I still love my family.
People cannot be Lone Ranger Christians. They need to be part of a healthy, well-balanced church. The church is God's ordained vehicle for worship, fellowship, and witness.